God's will hidden in Cain and Abel. Genesis chapter 4 verse 1 through 12 states, Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Most Christians today only know of Cain and Abel's story as God rejected Cain's sacrifice while accepting Abel's sacrifice, and therefore Cain killed Abel. However, why would Adam and Eve's firstborn son be a murderer? Matthew chapter 7 verse 21 states, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven." And so, let us examine God's secret hidden in Cain and Abel's story and truly understand God's will so that we can be among the precious who enter heaven. Genesis chapter 4 verse 1 states, Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." What woman lays with her husband and says, "With the help of someone else," she gave birth to a man? But Eve had relations with her husband and then said, "With the help of the Lord she brought forth a man." We hope you can comprehend that a deep secret of God's was hidden in these words. Genesis chapter 4 verse 2 through 6 states, "Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought forth some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast?" Cain was a farmer, and Abel was a shepherd. Therefore, when making sacrifices to God, Abel sacrificed a lamb, and Cain, as a farmer, gave an offering of the fruits of the soil. However, God looked upon Cain's offering with disfavor, while looking on Abel's offering with favor. Genesis chapter 4 verse 6 through 7 states, "Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it.'" At this point, Cain had not yet killed his younger brother. He had not yet committed murder or sin. And yet before he even sinned, God said that sin is crouching at his door and to rule over sin. Cain, from the beginning, was someone who was to be a sinner. Although most Christians believe that other than Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel, there were no other people living in the Garden of Eden, that is not true. Cain was of an evil person and had already been educated and coached by that evil person. 1 John chapter 3, verse 12 states, "Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one, and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil and his brothers were righteous. Because Cain belonged to the evil one, he killed his younger brother. Besides Cain, Adam and Eve, there was an evil one living there as well. Therefore, the offering made by Cain was itself an evil offering, and God did not accept that offering or look upon it with favor. Then, who was this evil one who existed in the Garden of Eden? Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 states, "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord had made. He said to the woman, 'Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?'" We can see in this verse that the serpent conversed with the woman. In reality, an animal like a snake cannot speak with a person. Matthew chapter 23, verse 32 through 33 states, "Go ahead then and complete what your ancestors started. You snakes, you broods of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell?" The serpent was the evil one. The serpent was not a physical serpent, but an evil person. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 through 10 states, "The coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. He will use all sorts of displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie, in all the ways that wickedness deceives those who are perishing. They perish because they refused to love the truth and so be saved." The murderer Cain did not receive the love of truth, and therefore was deceived and went down the road of a murderer. Then, why did God create a man like Cain? Genesis chapter 4, verse 8 through 12 states, "Now Cain said to his brother Abel, 'Let's go out to the field.' While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Where is your brother Abel?' 'I don't know,' he replied. 'Am I my brother's keeper?' The Lord said, 'What have you done?' 'Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." While at the outset it appears that God cursed Cain, in reality that is not so. Genesis chapter 4, verse 13 through 17 states, "Cain said to the Lord, 'My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me.' But the Lord said to him, 'Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over.' Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. A sign to avoid death was given to Cain, and a promise that one who killed Cain would suffer 7 times over. He also said that Cain would be a restless wanderer, but Cain settled in an area and built a city. Genesis chapter 4 verse 18 through 24 states, "To Enoch was born Irad. Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael was the father of Methushael, and Methushael was the father of Lamech. Lamech married 2 women, one named Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes. Zillah also had a son, Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives Ada and Zillah, 'Listen to me, wives of Lamech. Hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, and Lamech 77 times. He and his descendants all prospered and lived comfortably. So why did God curse Cain and then allow him these comforts and blessings? Just as Eve had said through the aid of the Lord she had given birth to a man, God used Cain's bloodline and extended it to the end of time in order to distinguish his own people and to judge them. John chapter 8 verse 44 states, "You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies." The Bible has the bloodline of Cain and the bloodline of Abel running through it. Therefore, it is important which line we follow. When Abel was murdered, God gave a new seed in the place of Abel, and thus that line continued. Genesis chapter 4 verse 25 states, "Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, 'God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him.'" God already preserved the line of Satan since the beginning of time. And he set in motion the road to salvation that began with the blood of Abel spilled, leading all the way to Jesus spilling his blood on the cross. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 24 states, "To Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel." Hebrews chapter 11 verse 4 states, "By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith Abel still speaks even though he is dead." Abel gave an offering that was righteous. 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7 states, "Get rid of the old yeast so that you may be a new unleavened batch, as you really are. For Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed." That Abel sacrificed a lamb to God indicates that Jesus was a lamb, and his blood sacrificed for all of mankind. This was God's hidden meaning. 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 7 through 8 states, "No, we declare God's wisdom, a mystery that has been hidden and that God destined for our glory before time began. None of the rulers of this age understood it. For if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory." Adam existed 6,000 years from now. But if Jesus was meant to bear the cross since the beginning of time, it means he was meant to do so, and was planned to do so by God before Adam even sinned, which means everything that happened in the Garden of Eden was planned by God, and was God's will. Therefore, even the history of Satan's deeds are part of God's providence, and he will be judged by the righteous. Revelations chapter 20 verse 2 through 3 states, "He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be set free for a short time." If everything occurred according to God's will, decided since the beginning of time, then we must determine what role we shall play, which line we should follow. We hope all of you here today who comprehended will follow the line of Abel and receive salvation.